Now the part you've all been waiting for. As a Unitarian Universalist, Jean has served her Massachusetts congregation in various capacities, such as performing music segments and serving as treasurer. She plays recorder and performs with a quartet that takes the Recorder Goes to School program into New England elementary schools. She holds a BA in music from Arcadia University, a certificate in theological studies from Andover Newton Theological School, and an MBA in global management from the University of Phoenix. She is starting an MFA in visual arts at Clark University this June, because why not? Jean currently serves as board chair for the Foxborough Universalist Church in Foxborough, Massachusetts. She is married, has 2 children, and 1 grandson. Please help me welcome Jean to the pulpit.
Good morning. It's good to start with you this morning from a place of hope. Hope Street, to be more specific. Hope Street, Liverpool. Everybody knows the Beatles were born in Liverpool, right? Well, how many know that Hope Street is where Liverpool's Anglican Cathedral stands at one end of Hope, while its Catholic Cathedral stands at the other end of Hope? Well, Hope Street clues us into Liverpool's spiritual life, setting the stage of a church-going populace into which John, Paul, George, and Ringo were born. As we start this month of May, which of these 5 God meanings resonates with you? 1, God is love. To quote the Reverend Cheryl Harris, love fuels hope and promise. And to that, I add this stat. The word love appears 613 times in Beatles songs. Meaning number 2, God is the all-knowing, omniscient one. 3, God is the Father, always listed first before his Son Jesus, with the Holy Ghost named third. This coming in the context of the Trinity. 4, God is the voice from the sky commanding Moses to lead the Jews to freedom. Or 5, God is the good humanitarian work people do. So where does this place the Beatles in the context of God? The answer may be as complex as when each of us here tries to explain our own concept of who or what God is. Consider this question. Could all 4 Beatles have been Unitarian Universalists, perhaps passing up on the possibility of the pursuit of UUism because they simply didn't know about it? The Beatles were on an RE journey, true to the application of RE as religious exploration. Why wouldn't they end up searching for some higher power when they were repeatedly playing in front of thousands of screaming fans? Did we, as lovers of their music, put them on a pedestal belonging to God? When John made the "we're more popular than Jesus" comment that caused such a ruckus in America, well, was he right? He knew he wasn't one who walked on water, but he also had to wonder how this degree of success and the Beatlemania that accompanied it could come to 4 Liverpudlians when the odds of attaining such heights of musical success are so rare. At a press conference in Chicago, John explained, "I'm not anti-God, anti-Christ, or anti-religion. I was not saying we are greater or better. I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I'm sorry I said it, really." I now offer you a bit of background of John's early days. If you have seen the movie Nowhere Boy, and if you haven't yet, I hope you will. You see the godlike influence adults have on young children. At age 5, during a tense family drama, John was asked by his estranged mom and dad to choose which one he wanted to go and live with, his mother Julia or her father Alf. It's a heart-wrenching scene. Adding to the situation's psychological complexity, John's Aunt Mimi, his mother, Julia's big sister, stepped into the family fracas to take charge in the chaos unfolding between Julia and Alf, with John in the middle. Bearing in mind that Aunt Mimi was married but childless, there's a case to be made for Mimi wanting John herself. Those of you in the fields of counseling, psychology, or social work may recognize John's insecure attachment to his parents portrayed in this scene that may explain certain of his toxic behaviors later on. John would later speak to and sing about being unwanted. The lyrics in his song, Mother, begin with, "Mother, you had me, but I never had you. I wanted you. You didn't want me, so I just got to tell you goodbye." And yet, there is a case to be made for these three most significant figures in John's life, Julia, Alf, and Mimi, wanting John badly. Aunt Mimi won out as she didn't think Julia, her younger sister, was fit to mother John. And so, in a comfortable neighborhood on the outskirts of Liverpool, at the home of his Aunt Mimi and Uncle George, John went to live for his child and teenage years. Now, fast forward a decade, and you see that sweet, vulnerable 5-year-old John has grown into his teens, plays banjo chords on his guitar, standing on the back of a truck with his Quarry Bank High School band called the Quarrymen, in the yard behind St. Peter's Church, at a festival, or fete, as the British call it. This is where Paul first lays eyes on John in the summer of '57. And John, impressed by Paul's perfect playing of Eddie Cochran's 30 Flight Rock, will soon invite Paul to join the Quarrymen. Well, the two clicked. They'd sit opposite one another, guitars in hand, Paul left-handed, John right-handed, progressing through chords, working to compose songs, each seeing the other as a mirror image. Paul had switched to guitar from trumpet shortly after he lost his mom to cancer, Halloween Day 1956. Paul and John used to go over to where John's mother Julia lived with her partner Bobby Dykins and their 2 young daughters to play music. Julia commented on how sad it was that the young lad Paul had lost his mom. An even stronger bond developed between John and Paul after the first anniversary of their meeting, when on July 15th, 1958, John's mother Julia started across Menlove Avenue, quite near her sister Mimi's home. An off-duty police officer driving along slammed into her, tossing her through the air, killing her instantly. From that point onward, teens John and Paul held motherlessness in common. Talk about their grief? Not in the cards. In their song, "The Fool on the Hill," the fool may see the sun going down and the world spinning round, but he never shows his feelings. John and Paul instead poured their pain into their music, connecting through their love of American rock and roll. John's White Album song from 1968, entitled Julia, "So I Sing the Song of Love for Julia," is about his mother, whom he refers to in the song as Ocean Child. Ocean Child is the English translation of the Japanese name Yoko Ono, whom John had met about a year before he wrote the song. Had John found the mother figure he thought lost forever once he met Yoko? While John's roots were Irish Catholic on his father's side and Protestant on his mother's, John was a skeptic, a rebel who suffered emotional pain he sublimated, dealing with it through self-medication. He was also one who would test the spiritual waters by going with the Beatles to Rishikesh, India, to practice transcendental meditation under the tutelage of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, of whom John became suspicious when stories emerged of the yogi being involved in relationships with females attending the same retreat. That's what John's song, Sexy Sadie, is about. In the song, Sexy Sadie is the yogi. John sings, Sexy Sadie, what have you done? You made a fool of everyone. Sexy Sadie, you broke the rules. You laid it down for all to see. In his song, God, John sings, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. I'll say it again. God is a concept by which we measure our pain. He then goes on to list all of what he does not believe in. And this being 1970, the year in which they broke up, John ends with the words that he does not believe in the Beatles. On to Paul's religious background. Paul's mother was Catholic. She probably would have been awestruck by the beauty of Hope Street's current Catholic cathedral, constructed, coincidentally, during the years the Beatles were touring the globe between 1962 and 66. Paul's father was Protestant. Paul himself was rather religiously non-denominational, if not disinterested, although, if asked of the meaning of God, one wonders, would his answer be, it's all in his music? After all, Paul penned the lyrics, when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. A dual meaning, these lyrics, as Paul's mother was named Mary, and from the Christmas story, Mother Mary brought baby Jesus into the world to save our souls, or so we are taught. Well, now on to George. Known as the Quiet Beatle, George was also the youngest. He had developed strong guitar playing skills. Within 7 months of George's joining all the original Quarrymen, the original ones had left, except for John and Paul. Raised Catholic, George pursued the spiritual life throughout his adulthood. From the meditation retreat in Rishikesh, India, to practicing with the Hare Krishna at his London estate, to penning songs, My Sweet Lord and All Things Must Pass. George was an explorer and believer in matters of the spirit. In the book Dreaming the Beatles, Rob Sheffield states, George approached his songs as devotionals in the same spirit as chanting Hare Krishna aloud. It's really a method of becoming one with God, he explained in a March 1969 radio interview. It's really the same sort of thing as meditation. But this is a thing that has more effect because music is such a powerful force. God likes me when I work, but loves me when I sing, end quote. The lyrics in My Sweet Lord have overt religious connotations and references. What makes the religious content of this song different from most, however, is its usage of both Christian and Hindu terminology. Harrison's goal in combining both religions in one song was to call out religious sectarianism, or the perceived notion of conflict between groups. To put it simply, Harrison just wanted everyone to get along, so he wrote a song, so states American Songwriters website. Within the song itself, the Christian references appear via the repetition of My Sweet Lord, as well as using the call to faith phrase, Alleluia. Also in the lyrics are the phrases Hare Krishna and Hare Rama, which praise the Hindu god Krishna. Inspired by the book The Inner Light by a Sanskrit scholar at Cambridge, George wrote the song Inner Light after the scholar suggested he compose a piece with words from Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, the founding text that combines philosophy and religion to promote harmony in life for the individual and for society as a whole. A lyric from the song is, "Without going out of my door, I can know the ways of heaven." For his song, All Things Must Pass, George drew from a poem published in Timothy Leary's 1966 book, Psychedelic Prayers, after the Tao Te Ching. In lyrics to his song, "Awaiting on You All," Harrison espouses a direct relationship with God over adherence to the tenets of organized religion. You may recognize the same thing from the Transcendentalists, who advocated the idea of a personal knowledge of God, believing that no intermediary was needed for spiritual insight. And so it came to pass that John brought in Paul. Paul brought in George. And, well, George was the one to ask Ringo to join the group once the Beatles had decided they wanted him to be their drummer. Ringo, so named for rings he wears on his fingers, was christened Richard Starkey. He came on board about 4 years after the first 3 Beatles in the summer of '62. While they performed in Liverpool's Casbah Club, the Beatles didn't even have a drummer. Mona Best, who founded the Casbah in the basement of her house, was the mother of Pete Best, who stepped in as their drummer. Pete served as their drummer for a couple of years that included the Beatles' stints in Hamburg, Germany. But when the Beatles got a green light from producer George Martin, who opened the door to their first recording contract, Mr. Martin told them, "You've got to get rid of your drummer." Quoting Dreaming the Beatles, Rob Sheffield's book, once again, when Ringo replaced Pete Best in 1962, he turned them into a foursome. The other 3 grew up together as schoolboys. Ringo stepped in as a freewheeling adult, but unlike Pete, he joined them emotionally. As he said, "I was an only child, and suddenly I felt as though I'd got 3 brothers. In the old days, we'd have the hugest hotel suites, the whole floor of the hotel, and the 4 of us would end up in the bathroom just to be with each other." Ringo had been a sickly child, spending more time in the hospital with ailments like peritonitis after a ruptured appendix than he did in school. A woman would come around to the hospital with drums for the children to play. This is where he picked up his passion for the drums. An only child, Ringo was raised Anglican. He has said of himself that he is agnostic, monotheistic. Ringo left the meditation retreat in Rishikesh after only 3 weeks, saying he couldn't tolerate the food. Yet the David Lynch Foundation, one dedicated to encouraging meditation practice and peace in our world, is one Ringo has supported yearly. The foundation presented Ringo with the Lifetime of Peace and Love Award. In his post-Beatle years, the message Ringo conveys on Ringo Stars and the All-Star Concert Tours is one of peace and love. Perhaps that's what's most important in our God and the Beatles exploration, a la you. The Beatles gave to humanity through their music, their message, and their charitable works. 3 songs we all can readily identify today. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Give me love, give me love, give me peace on earth, and all you need is love. Clearly, the Beatles held a passion for using music to convey these messages. As Harrison once said, because music is such a powerful force. So here we are, just about 60 years now. It was June of '66 when the Beatles had decided to stop touring and retreat to the studio. And the album Revolver is the first that they produced that way. So I advocate for listening once again to extraordinary songs on that album. And I hope that you will proceed in looking at that movie I mentioned and taking in the songs in a new light. So I thank you.
So let's take a few moments and close our eyes and take a few deep breaths.